Hello. Ah,
Hello?
hello. Yeah, I can hear you. How are you doing? I'm streaming from VR today, so
Okay, cool.
yeah, I'm
Looks dope.
quite yeah. So you're a designer, right?
Right, right.
Hmm. All right. So I kind of wanted to like brainstorm so we both know what the other is doing. So right now
Sure.
I'm working on several different things. The main thing is an AI system. It's called Zero One. In a
Okay.
sense, it's an AI system that reacts um, to every human order. So you just point at it and tell it what to do. On top of that, I have AI systems that can read emotion from a human voice quite accurately. I have
Really?
another AI system that can basically recognize everything in a scene pretty much. So, like let's say you're a human, it can recognize your entire pose, right? It knows where your feet are, where your hands are, everything. On top of that, there's a system that can easily be trained to recognize every object in a human way. So all you have to do is just take a video of it, right? And then it can like reconstruct that and recognize it. You can train a deep neural network on it. Um,
Wow. That
so
sounds
that's
sounds really really interesting, man.
yeah, but that's the main part. But what I would
So you
hmm,
excuse me, you developed all this by yourself?
pretty much yeah. And another thing
Okay.
is project sales. So the plan is to sell 3D printed sailboats. And I think that's a good way to make revenue without sharing my AI projects too much because they're quite dangerous in the wrong hands. So
Indeed,
sailboats
indeed.
are definitely necessary in this new world. So because of Corona, people realize that we're probably not going back to normal. On top of that, we have a climate emergency. So that all factored in means that going to the seas is probably your best bet. I'm not saying it's an arc, but this is something very doable with current technology. So 3D printing is already a thing, right? Even if your 3D printer cannot print all of it at once, you can construct a way to construct it like Legos. Let's say you print
Yeah,
1 meter by
yeah,
1 meter blocks, right? You can just
yeah.
construct it yourself. So that's the main idea, and then everybody could have something like this for quite a low cost. So I'm putting them for sale now.
How much of a low cost you have in mind?
So a yacht, right? Like an actual yacht, you could like do everything in would be 1 million or less. I'm saying 1 million because it's probably a lot less than that, right? Especially in material costs. So
True.
that number will definitely go down, but that's that's the start. So
Yeah.
once you can construct anything, even besides yacht, you can have habitats, so entire houses. Like this place that I'm in right now, I'll give you a short tour, right? It's
Right.
basically a virtual home, but all of
Yeah.
this could technically be 3D printed since they're already 3D assets.
Indeed.
So, yeah, that's the pool table. In a sense, yeah. Yeah, so I also like going in VR because you can show new kinds of mechanisms. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, there we go. I'll go back to the mirror. Wait, no, let me just go back here. Um, there we go. Uh, yeah, that's the gist of it. So for the sales project, I want to make a website first to put them up for sale, right?
Yeah.
And deliveries next year. Oh yeah, and another partner of mine is this guy. He this is Jack.
Okay.
He sells jet suits, right?
Really?
Yeah, jet suits. And let's see, it's called Gravity Industries, and they're also organizing a race pretty soon with a billionaire, I guess. Yeah,
Is
the
that
racer.
the same tech the French guy used
Yeah, that
to
guy. Yeah, that guy.
really
Him. He's a friend of
dope?
mine. So um, these things are gonna be quite useful, right? Like not only
Indeed.
for boating, but any other thing that you would want to construct. So I like
Yeah.
principles, right? So in a sense, if it's all plug and play like Legos and there's like open standards, you can basically make any kind of device and reuse a lot of existing devices. So let's say you want a boat, right?
Right.
And you don't want to like buy expensive hardware. So what do you do? For example, if you were to have a Tesla, this would be very straightforward to do. So you basically construct 3D models in a sense that you are able to like drive your car on the sail on the boat, right, on the platform,
Right.
and then
Right.
you could use your car as a power source, as a steering source, entertainment, etc.,
As a
right?
power bank. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So on top of that, autopilot, right? So
Right.
the Tesla Model 3, I used to have it, right? It's an amazing car, especially the self-driving part, which is
Yeah.
also getting even better with a recent update
Indeed.
uh,
Indeed.
in the coming months. So they're basically ready, if you ask me. Like, well, from what I've seen, they're ready for most cases. But on open sea, on the sea, you have a lot less obstacles to deal with. So there, they would technically be even better.
Indeed.
Because there's not going to be random children running in front of
Right.
you, right?
Right. 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 Right.
And even if you were to hit something, it wouldn't really matter, or it would be at low speeds, right? And
Right.
so that's fine. And on top of that, autopilot, right? So you can either decide to make your own autopilot, but why not just build on top of what Tesla has delivered? So my proposal here is basically connecting, basically fooling the sensors of every Tesla that you drive into it. So the benefit is Tesla is fully vision based, pretty much, almost only
Yeah.
vision, right, and a bit of radar, but mainly vision, right? So
Yeah.
if you just uh, in a sense overlay the vision with a virtual scene. So let's say you just put a screen in a sense in front of the Tesla sensors, right, the cameras on all
Okay.
sides.
Yeah.
Then you can basically make the car think it's on a road, but it's actually on sea, right? And you can add virtual objects, and it would behave just as a normal Tesla would, but then on the
Yeah.
sea. So then you would have autopilot, and that quality would improve with Tesla updates. But you as a company would not need the expensive machine learning capacities, etc., to
Yeah.
like set it up from scratch, right? So you just
Yeah.
build on
Yeah.
top
Right.
of it. It's sustainable. So I think this is the way forward, especially for climate change, future with climate change, because I live in the Netherlands and we will not be a country once this continues, and I doubt it will. Okay, so I do have ideas on how to mitigate climate change, but that also is enabled because of this, right? So let's say climate change does not get solved, right? Let's say nobody has any ideas that will work in time. By the way, I do, but let's say nobody does.
Okay.
Then you would be able to migrate your country to the seas, right? You'll be able to also have platforms to um, to just build on top of, so you can like construct like maybe flat plains to like start farming on, on the seas in an automated way, right? You don't have to do this. You would just have automated farming. These things could go anywhere.
Right.
So that's one, right? So you can already live at sea in a sustainable way. Perhaps you would go to land to maybe buy stuff like medicine or any other resources, but you would not be, you would not be in a dangerous position
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of like extreme flooding. That's
Indeed.
one. And if there's storms, you would just either basically go around them, right? We have weather reports, so that's one. Um, but okay, so in the case that climate change does not get solved, in the case that you want to solve climate change, these things are also perfect because they could also earn money for you, right? They earn money for you by you um, basically having them work for you. So the shipping industry is a big source of pollution, right? But
Right.
if you have a electric ship that uses solar power or just smartly sails, right, with wind
Right.
patterns, it would just sail automatically. You would not be
Right.
have to do anything. Then it would earn money, and it would make shipping more flexible, more useful for people because it would just go directly to the destination instead of first to a port, that's owned by the Chinese since they're buying up all these ports, right? Whatever.
Right. Right.
Um, but that's a big improvement. On top of that, you
Indeed.
could also like ferry people from A to B, right? Because people who
Right.
don't want to get vaccinated, for example, they're basically prisoners in their own country. Australia is a big example of this, and it's only going to
Indeed.
get worse. I'm
Indeed.
kind of worried about it, and people just think it's fine. I don't think it's fine, and people have to stop
It's
it
not.
now before it's everywhere, and you don't have a choice, right?
Yeah.
Because they'll use
Yeah.
that argument as everybody's doing, so why not, right? The majority rule, even though that not that doesn't mean anything technically. You just have to listen to logic. So I'm just giving people an alternative in this
Right.
future with tyranny. So decentralization is always the answer. That's why I like crypto. And speaking of crypto, um, I think having um, a decentralized society that's also internet based and metaverse based is where we're going. So
Yeah.
I already have a white paper. It's called Fiducia. It's a society based upon a web of trust. And so when let's say you have to vote on something, everybody can cast a vote directly, right? Either direct democracy or you delegate your vote to someone who you trust, like an expert. And that expert can also decide to then directly vote with all the votes under them or delegate that vote upwards. So that way, you would
Sounds
have.
sounds really interesting, man. If you could please send me the white paper, I would love
Yeah,
to read it.
I will. You know what? I'll just publish it on LinkedIn so other people can read it too.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, I'll just publish it. I'll send you the PDF today, but I'll publish an article.
Sounds really interesting. Really,
Yeah.
really interesting.
So, there's that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's better than having some politician do his thing or her thing for
Way
four
better.
years, right? Without even though they're like breaking all the promises and everything is burning, oh my
Yeah.
god, that's just too slow. Like, and the thing is, like, normally we'd have enough time to have someone do their thing, right, and someone else undo their thing the next 4 years, meaning you would end up nowhere. But normally we have time for that, but now we don't because of this climate
Yeah.
emergency and everything just burning
Right.
down. So I
Right.
think this is a way forward. Yeah, so that and so this sailboat thing, I want to monetize it by having people already be able to pre-order it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe even send us their designs, right? So I'm
Right.
basically just a broker. If someone has a design that they want, they can just send it to me, and I'll get it sorted. So I already have contacts with
Right.
3D companies. So yeah, that's it.
As a matter of fact, last night I was watching some TV show,
Hmm.
and it was showing a company from the Netherlands that was making yachts for the super rich, and
Yeah.
I think like I don't know the estimate, but some parts of it were definitely 3D printed. I
Hmm.
don't know the percentage of it, but definitely I would estimate maybe something like 50% is printed at the
Yeah.
moment. So
One
that's
hundred
definitely
percent
a
should also be
plus.
doable, but I would say
Yeah,
as much as possible, right? So
yeah,
the thing is, in old times, people always like outsource it to like the other side of the planet, and then
yeah,
have it
yeah,
shipped back, right? And then go
yeah,
through different sorting centers until it's like at your doorstep.
yeah.
Like that's so wasteful. Like
Indeed, indeed.
instead, like this concept is basically you can actually have all of it produced locally, like maybe in your same country, maybe even in the same city, and the device will just right up to your. It will come up to your doorstep itself, right? I think I like that concept more, more sustainable,
It's
more
yeah,
transparent, more fair.
I gotta tell
Yeah,
you,
local first.
it's very well thought out. I
Yeah, I've
like
been thinking about it
everything
for
there.
a couple years, and it all comes down to this, right? And I really need this as a start. Like I have a couple hundred different AI solutions that my systems have come up with, right, to save the world, even Corona, but nobody even listened to that. I'm like, I kind of figured out how to get rid of Corona without anyone needing to be vaccinated or quarantined. I'm not against vaccinations, but I am against totalitarianism, using that as a political weapon. So I'm just giving people an alternative. This is not medical advice, but it's all based upon principles. So I use principles which are just universal truths that, at every way you look at them, at every level, they're true in a sense, right? So basically, the principle is this. I would say nature has a lot of solutions already. So dogs, for example, they have. It's been proven that they have the ability to smell corona with a 90+% accuracy, right? And
Right.
in some experiment that I've seen, there were no false positives, right? So both of those combined give me a good indication that, hey, maybe there's something here, right? So dogs, what if you have more dogs trained to smell corona and detect it, and then walking around, right? So that's one that would already enable a lot of events, large scale events, to just happen with fewer risks, right? Because the vaccinated people, they can also catch corona, and they are less likely to be cautious when they're dealing with whatever event, because they're like, oh yeah, now I'm immune, right? Even though they can still catch it, it's been proven, right? Everybody seems to know this and accept this, but they still are treated. They still get preferential treatment because it saves the government money in healthcare costs, because once you're vaccinated, you get less sick once you catch it, right? That's the main argument. But I still think we should adhere to the Nuremberg principles, right? So you cannot just directly or indirectly force someone to go forward with a medical procedure, and you also need to educate them about everything about it, right, before they get
Indeed.
this, right? So
Indeed.
yeah,
Indeed. Plus, it's an experimental shot.
it's still experimental. So if something
Yeah.
were to
Yeah.
happen, they would not really be liable, even though they're indirectly
Yeah.
forcing you,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is an unfair. That's an
Indeed.
unfair dilemma that you'd have, right?
Yeah.
So technically, if you don't get vaccinated and you have healthcare, you're actually more protected legally speaking. So they don't have the right incentive structure. So I think if you change the incentive structure to, we have a better way to detect if you have the virus. So if you were to have the virus, in this case, let's say a dog were to detect it, and multiple dogs were to like confirm that, right? Then you have a good indication. So what do you do? I would say have the government pay this person to quarantine, maybe even in a 5-star hotel. All of that would probably still be cheaper than the effects that the current measures have on society. And people
Indeed.
are more likely to be tested this way because, hey, then they might have had it, right? And they would technically have a longer term immunity. Don't quote me on this, of course. But I would still prefer just getting the virus while I'm healthy, um, compared to, okay, so being able to get the
Right.
virus is also a form of immunity, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I would say that's an option, and on top of that, not every dog could can really be trained to do something. Like there's this saying, old dogs can't be learned new tricks, right? But
Yeah.
but
Right.
every dog can smell, even though they
Right.
don't know the trick. They can still smell. It still
Right.
registers in their brain. So the Neuralink could also be a nice feature here, or maybe even EEG, but I'd say at least a Neuralink, right? Any brain reading device could technically be trained to read a dog's brain
Right.
and react to when it smells something.
Right.
Elon Musk already proved this concept because he had a
Right.
pig in his Neuralink
Right.
demonstration,
Right. Right. Right.
and it just reacted to the nose pooping, right? Right, and
Indeed.
and then the Neuralink picked it up and played a sound. Same
Yeah.
concept, different animal, right? So
Yeah.
once you have that, you would have every dog with any of with these Neuralinks or whatever devices, hopefully non-invasive because reasons, right? Then
Right.
every dog would be a live detector, and the whole thing is you can actually eradicate it this way. This is the only way to actually get rid of it because once you detect it and quarantine it and like let it die out, it will stop spreading. That's the only way. Then it has no way to go. And there's this talk about animal reservoirs, but even those could be detected, right?
Right.
Um, so after a while, you would have quick detection, um, quick quarantining, and you would be able to have your economy going. So I think that's a way out. I've never heard anybody mention most of this, at least in unison. But I'm just going to advocate it. It's all right if I share a recording of this meeting later because it would be quite useful
Yeah.
for people to. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So
No
yeah,
worries.
that's my goal. Well, my goal is basically to save the world, and it will only get helped if more people support me. So that's why I'm trying to also give back while having people have the option to accelerate this progress, to just bring the world back to. I would say bring the world back better. I didn't like it when people were saying yeah build back better. Some scripts makes me anxious, but I think we shouldn't go back to normal. We should go back to better, like actual better. Like there's been a few big developments, big releases during the last 1 2 years. But I think we can make a better world coming out of this, and maybe even have the metaverse, which I'm in right now, also play a role because you can use so much technology, like for example live translation, right? Without people having a headset on, well, something visible on their face that would distract you, or being discriminated based upon how they look or like
Right.
smell or
Right.
whatever. I don't know. Right. So that's the only reason I'm like this. I kind of like to make people think like what is what does someone's outside really matter if the inside is nice, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's why I'm like this. I have many different avatars, but I like seeing how people react in the first instance of
It's
yeah
really
a meeting
an
like this.
interesting experiment, social
Mm-hmm.
experiment. Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, so I've been looking at your art. It's amazing. So yeah, where do you want to go? Like, what's your main goal now? Are you working on something new? What's your main what's your
Like
master
like
project?
like professionally, I'm at the moment I'm in between jobs and projects.
Perfect
Like
for me at least. So
yeah,
yeah, okay,
yeah. So basically, yeah, that's where I'm at professionally. But otherwise, no. I really enjoyed speaking with you,
mm-hmm.
and I really dig your ideas
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
and also your vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think I would definitely love to collaborate with you on all sort of projects.
Perfect. All
Yeah,
right, then we'll get our working agreement sorted.
yeah,
Let's see. I don't think there's anything else to discuss. Let's just plan a new meeting to see
sure,
how yeah what we're gonna start with.
yeah,
Okay, so more is coming. I'm also gonna experiment on some prototype designs. So it's going to be a cyber ship, at least one of them, right? So
okay.
in a sense, it's something that enables you to safely live at sea. So
It's
even
like
oh
it
yeah,
will be. Sorry, is it gonna be like completely autonomous or
by
something
default
in
yes. So
okay,
you can steer it, but it's like a simple UI. So you just say, hey, go there, or
okay.
behave like this. You can like even like draw a
Make
course.
make it a route. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's
So
dope. That's
it's
dope.
it's more easy. So I think um, it has to be useful for anyone who only uses a smartphone, right? There's a lot of
Yeah,
people who only know how
right,
to do that, and
right.
so in a sense, that should be the main way of control. And let's
Yeah,
say there's an emergency, right? In that case, you can either delegate control to an expert, right,
Right.
or manually take control.
Right.
But even I would say with self-driving cars, there's always this problem of like, what do you do in this situation? Like, do you like hit the person on the left with these features or the person on the right? No, the whole premise of self-driving systems is you would never even be in that situation,
Right.
right?
Right.
There's just way much more you can do with prevention and like large data sets.
Indeed. Indeed.
So, um, yeah. And once that's proven, right, you can add insurance services. Let's say something does happen, you would just get a new one sailed to you, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
healthcare costs like reimbursed, etc. So I am also looking for beta testers. So if anyone is interested, just send me a message. Like, I'm really open to messages on LinkedIn. My name is O'Brien McKenzie, or company Suro.ai, SURO. So Suro stands for sustainable routine. So in a sense, the goal is to have autonomous systems, like even robots. For example, like this one, the Tesla bot. Uh,
Yeah.
this one,
Yeah.
right? I'm also preparing a music video with it. It's coming out soon. Also has an AI generated song. It's called
Okay.
Dreams. So basically, let's say you were to like do something while controlling a robot from VR, right? Let's say you're
Right.
cooking. I'm cooking something, and it's all good. All right, I'm just adding some tomatoes. I don't know. I'm cooking. I don't know, or I'm like making a package, right? I'm just moving a
Right.
package from here to here or something, and I do that a couple times. When you record all of that, it's perfect data for an AI system because you're already moving it with its own parameters. So you would basically record it and have a general way of like doing that same task again. So that's one. And if this all gets shared to a network in an anonymous way and then trained using federated machine learning, you would basically have an artificial system that will just learn to do everything. And then comes the control problem. Like, you don't want killer bots, right? So Elon
Right.
Musk said, yeah, these things will not be able to lift more than like 20 kilograms or 45 pounds. But the whole problem is like any gun that's lethal would at least, yeah, you can like lift it, right? So you don't
Right.
want that. So
Right.
in a sense, you need prevention. So how do you stop a robot from doing something that you do not like?
Mm.
I would say step one is, um, well, so in a sense, it has to be dependent on you, right? So it has to listen. So it has to have a heart. So with its heart, that's a default system that cannot be turned off. It will be shut down if you start screaming, right?
Okay.
If you start screaming or like being very sad, it will just stop, or at least reevaluate and just stop doing the task and ask you what's wrong. Okay, so
Okay.
that system is already made. Of course, there's other ways that you can protect against this, but ultimately, what you want is an army of good robots to stop a bad robot. So other robots could also intervene, right? It's the same principle as with guns. How do you stop a bad person with a gun? Well, more good people with guns, right? So
Right.
we're gonna have to have a decentralized economy of different AGI systems. There's not just one super system. Centralization never really works. I would never advocate for that. So you need diversity, and I would say regulations need to be. Yeah, it's hard. Like, Europe is trying to regulate AI into that, and the whole problem is that's just going to create an economy of AI because all of these AI companies, worth anything, will just leave. It's software. They don't need to really be in your country. They will
Indeed.
instantly leave to places better suited, even maybe
Yep.
even to societies at sea, right? Like, you can have a new
Right.
country there. Who's gonna stop
Right.
you? So yeah, I'll leave it at that. More is coming soon. If you're interested in buying a boat, hit me up. You can pay in crypto, you can pay in Dogecoin, whatever you really want. If it's valuable, if if I deem it, you can probably even pay in work. So the whole problem is, um, right now we're still dependent on a fiat system, but I do not expect that to be the case. So the end goal is not even UBI. The end goal is that everything is free for everyone. And how do you do that? You do that with a resource based economy, space mining, so basically a post scarcity society. So
Right.
anything should be doable at that point. So, yeah. If you're curious, just hit me up and yeah, have a nice day. I'm going to end the recording right now. We could probably even discuss some private details. Let's see. There we go.